Our next master is Swami Sri Yukteswar, who was Paramahamsa Yogananda's master. He said a few things, so I'm just going to have some fun with him. He said, everything in the future will improve if you're making a spiritual effort now. That's one of the mistakes many of us make, is we forget that no matter what's going on, we have to be putting forth that daily effort for that improvement. He says, forget the past. Says attachment is blinding. It lends an imaginary halo of attractiveness to the object of desire. Remember that finding God will mean the funeral of all sorrows. Remember that finding God will mean the funeral of all sorrows. And he also spoke, because he also was a great ascetic. He said, a beggar cannot renounce wealth. But speaking of him, Paramahamsa Yogananda, one of his best known disciples, I put down quite a few things with him just because I've seen him a lot in my out-of-body experiences over the years, and I'm a big fan. Really love him a lot. And a lot of what he says is really, really important to all of us. And this again, right here, truth is no theory, no speculative system of philosophy. Truth is exact correspondence with reality with a capital R. That's what we call energetic knowledge, the eternal truth, all those things that I talk about so much and write about in my books. That's what he's talking about. When we talk about, well, what is the truth? It isn't, it's not this, it's not some, some nebulous thing that, that people can just make up.
It's not something I could just write on this notebook.
And say, well,
this is the truth right here.
This is now truth, And so here's something that
I feel like he also, sorry to interrupt, Swami, like Sri Yukteswar, he also had like a cosmic mind, the way that
yes,
he saw
did.
things. Because, as we mentioned at the onset of this gathering for this teaching or this, sharing, is he was, knowledgeable about the grand cycles that we go through on a cosmic level. Mm-hmm. And so that was his words about being in the presence of masters to keep our consciousness up was really pinnacle to me at a point when I was wondering, like, what's the use? Kind of, what's it all about if we're just in this dark age right now? And, I know that we can do something for ourselves, but to know that, like, in the presence of a master, we can uplift our consciousness, that will then uplift others.
Uplift the realm, yes.
Uplift the realm, I love that.
And we don't understand, too, that as we uplift our own vibration, we are actually pulling up the vibration of the realm. A lot of people don't realize that. And that's important to know as well.
Raise our energy, raise the realm.
Exactly, yes. And so one of the things that Paramahamsa Yogananda said about samadhi I liked. Samadhi but extends my conscious realm beyond limits of the mortal frame to farthest boundary of eternity, where I, the cosmic sea, watch the little ego floating in me. Thought is inexhaustible. Since the world began, thoughts in unimaginable numbers have passed through the ether. One could not begin to count them. but he also spoke, speaking also in, response to what his own master said, the season of failure is the best time for sowing the seeds of success.
I like that.
And the next master is actually one of Paramahamsa Yogananda's favorite disciples, Sri Jnanamata. She was a female disciple of Paramahamsa Yogananda. She has a book that was written, I believe it was written about her books, but it has a lot of her writings in it too. And Paramahamsa Yogananda wrote a beautiful eulogy about her at the time of her passing. And
He even declared her a saint.
oh yes, he did. He declared her a saint. And he said she has finished her work when he heard of her death. As a great saint said, insult not my dust with your pity, ye who are left on this desolate shore, still to mourn and deplore. It is I who pity you. She is actually pitying a great many here, though of course she can't pity those who are on their way to freedom. Mother Divine, this is a prayer he wrote for her, break the troth of mine with thee about good sister. Release, if thou will, mother dear. Her test is greater than she can bear from this nightmare of suffering. Take her to the wakefulness of ever new bliss. And he says that at the moment of her death, a great light appeared to him, and he saw Sister in the arms of the Divine Mother. He cried out, Sister, do not go, wait. And even that desire was fulfilled. Those spiritual footprints will always be there. And Sri Jnanamata has her own legacy with the Self-Realization Fellowship that Paramahamsa Yogananda founded, as do many of his disciples who are following in his footsteps and, achieving attainments of their own accord through his guidance that continues, from beyond. We have recordings. I am very blessed. One of my members years ago by the name of Leo sent me the DVD recordings of Paramahamsa Yogananda's talks that were still available, in recorded form. So I still have those.
That's great.
And listen to those sometimes when I go off to sleep. So that's really cool.
I remember when I first came to LA, I started going to the Self-Realization Fellowship.
Did you?
So, so I grew up a Lutheran, and then you go there, like the one on Sunset Boulevard in LA, and they had a really great one too, near Malibu, but really great. But on the wall, there'd be like, Babaji, Jesus, it's just like all these. I'm like, whoa, this is fantastic. Like you're just including all like the beautiful masters and teachers and stuff. I thought that was great.
Yeah, that is great. Well, moving on to the next masters whose feet we are pausing through, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. He passed away in the late 20th century. Many remember him from the 1970s. Several of the members of the Beatles were really interested in him and his teachings, but he actually has there's a whole group of people who follow him in Fairfield, Iowa, but his books are, known all around the world. The Science of Being and Art of Living is the most famous one that he wrote, and this is from that. It says, in a state where being is fully maintained, the process of experience becomes powerful. and the experience of the object becomes deeper and fuller than before. This art of being on the level of experience is natural in a fully integrated life where one is able to live all values of the transcendental, absolute bliss consciousness of being together with experiences of the various aspects of relative creation. And later on in the same text, he writes, in fact, just a couple pages later, he says, the simple fact that being is the never-changing eternal phase of existence and that it pervades the diverse forms of phenomenal creation gives us the hope of bringing all the diversified phases of our lives into harmony by coordinating their values with the values of absolute being. So that was Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, definitely known for bringing transcendental meditation, the practice of it, to the United States and around the world. People still learn that practice everywhere. So his legacy continues and continues onward. And our next master is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder of the Krishna consciousness movement. He was a little controversial at his time, but you know, one of the most prolific writers and translators of Hindu texts as well. And you know, he was a big teacher of Kriya Yoga, and that was the path that they taught. And he would say, anyone who is steady in his determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization and can equally tolerate the onslaughts of distress and happiness is certainly a person eligible for liberation. So he's speaking here, of course, that part of the transcendental consciousness that we all seek and the awakening and the transformation is the ability to be able to move through the minefields of existence, which includes the highs and the lows, and be able to move through them with equal fervor.
I like the term being because I was fortunate enough to study with a teacher who was not about doing, it was just about being. And then being fully who you are, like in the moment, connected with consciousness. And that's kind of, that's the only way that we can really experience anything truly is if we are in a being state. If we're in a doing state, then
that doesn't happen. Yes.
we can't.
Well,
Can't be
yes, and
with
that
something.
is, and in fact, much of you know, a lot of my in the Mysteries of the Redemption, I wrote about a lot of the experiences that I had where I was, you know, being taught how to go from the state of doing to be more in a state of being, and that is part of our, you know, part of our transformative process in the beginning stages of out-of-body travel. So it is a really important part of that. And our next master is Guru Nanak, who is the founder of the Sikh religion. And he would say a few things. Let's share.
And that's the 5th largest religion in the world. Like that's a big.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that big.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, they have their text is called the Sri Guru Granth Sahib. I have 2 of the 4 volumes. Beautiful work, a beautiful work.
That's the German pronunciation.
Yes. I am not the born. How can there be either birth or death for me? Death would not be called bad, O people, if one knew how to truly die. Whatever kind of seed is sown in a field prepared in due season, a plant of that same kind, marked with the peculiar qualities of the seed, springs up in it. You know, I'm a gardener, so that one really rings true for me. But, you know, he's speaking metaphorically of the spiritual, obviously, and that we don't often give enough attentiveness to that which we are sowing. But we want to make sure that we take close observation of that which we are sowing, because a plant of the same kind, marked with the peculiar qualities of the seeds we are sowing, will spring up from it. Makes it more important, you know?
Mhm.
And then, you know, our next master.
Well, before we move on, there's something that, because Nanak and the Sikhism, oh, what's that? Oh, so the one thing that Nanak said was, there is one universal creative God. Truth and eternal is the name. God is one and is everywhere.
Yes. Excellent selection there, Brian. I love it.
Got one more.
Okay, hit me.
Seek the Lord. Now is the time.
Can you say more than that? Nope.
Seek the Lord. Now is the time.
Gotta love Nanak. I have always been a big fan of Nanak.
I think
one
he's
of
the
the
heart.
things.
He's the heart chakra in yoga, because the different Sikhs, there's different masters for different chakras. So he's
Oh,
like
is he?
he's the healer, the heart.
Okay. You know, the Sikhs have a really special kind of meditation music that I really like. So I have a few CDs that I use from some Sikh artists that I love.
Awesome.
But our next master is a Sikh, Hazur Maharaj Sawan Singh, who is the master who came and told me to write this book, At the Feet of the Masters. And so he is
Thank you.
thank you. And yeah,
Gracias.
I'm thanking him as well, because it was a cool experience, you know. He came to me talking to me about the light streams. And, you know, if you read the sacred texts of the Sikhs and stuff, they talk a lot about the sound streams, the light streams, and it was a beautiful experience when he came, and so grateful for the experience. And of course, what he asked me to do was cool, and appreciate that. But you know, Hazur Maharaj Sawan Singh was a really practical mystic in some ways. In other ways, he was profoundly mystical too. But here's some practical stuff that he said. The devil can only enter your mind through whisperings. I am pausing for a reason. Because the reason why is because a gossip is the door to the devil for probably 99% of all human beings, right? The foul use of human language, of the mouth, of words, you know. And that was one of the things in my books you'll see that I was really corrected on, because I didn't do well at that for many years. And I learned how, and in the Jewish religion as well, it's a big thing, that the teachings on Lashon Hara and recluse and proper use of speech, and you learn about gossip and slander, but we We do not realize that it's that simple. The devil can only enter your mind through whisperings,
So many
and how
people do
easy
that.
that is.
Yeah, I don't know what the term was, but I did this work called landmark education for a while, years back. And that was like the first, because it was like a weekend. You go there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's like you're there like 12 hours. But they just give you different distinctions about how we're kind of built as humans. And one of them is that we're gossipers.
Yeah.
And to get rid of it, like get rid of the gossiping right away, because it just takes you out of everything. It poisons things. Just stop it. Don't do it. If you got something to say to somebody, go directly to them if it's proper,
If
and
it's
say like,
legitimate, yeah.
look, and but then there's also a way to talk to them about it, because it does have something to do with us and how we are and who we're making them out to be, that we're then judging them and wanting to talk to other people about it, and blah, 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 and then that just keeps going, and it's contagious. And the more
Yes.
they, somebody gossips, and then they're getting somebody else embroiled in it, and then they're in it, and then people just keep, like, totally takes us out of line.
Well, can you imagine how simple it would be to get everyone on their purification path if they only, if we only removed the distraction of gossip? Because we do utilize, it's just human nature is to compare ourselves to others. And so then we almost use it as a distraction. So I'm not as bad as this. Well, at least I didn't do this or whatever. So when we do that, you know what happens? Nothing. We don't do any purification.
And gossip is just another word for judgment.
Exactly. Yes, it is. And it's also, it's one of the reasons it's considered as such a serious thing in Judaism is because you can literally murder a man's character. You can destroy their ability to make a living by murdering a man's character. So you can, the consequences of it can be very serious to a person's life when you're bad mouthing another person or participating in it.
And the penalties back then for false accusations was pretty hard.
Yeah.
Like people nowadays,
and that's why
you can just do it all day long. False accusations. Say whatever they want. Like, it just costs too much to try to sue them and stuff, right?
Yeah, but what this does with Hazur Maharaj Sawan Sinj, what he's saying puts it in perspective, because now the crux of the matter is the devil can only enter your mind through whisperings. And then, okay, now you're forced to deal with the fact that if you engage, the devil's entering your mind. Uh-oh. So, that's the crux of the matter that that the Sikh master Sinj is asking us to identify there.
I'm not sure where it is upcoming in the book, but we're going to be talking about meditation, or maybe we won't. Maybe it's just going to be now. But where the thoughts are coming into your mind, and maybe they're whispers, that are not for the highest good of all, or maybe they're good thing, or maybe they're things that we got to do, or maybe it's the laundry list. But in that meditation, we're just allowing all the thoughts to just go. We're not being attached to them, and just letting them go, and we're just being in the cosmic,
right,
energy and consciousness. Oh yeah, by the way, at the feet of the masters. So, oh darn, the word escapes me. Where is it like that everything is imprinted from the earth? All the books, all the teachings. You go to the, where is it again?
The Palace of Ancient Knowledge?
Well, that's one, but also it's the Akashic Records. So in Sikhism, because I kind of studied deep into it yogically anyways, they believe that the Akashic Records are actually at the soles of the feet of the master. So one of my teachers actually tried to get at the feet of Yogi Bhajan when he had his feet up. He was like, he tried to get down there a little bit, It's like, what are you doing down there? It's like, and the Akashic Records are down here, nothing. Nothing to see here. But I thought that was kind of interesting.
But here is, well, hold on. You go ahead, because I am.
You go ahead. Oh, by the way, the Seek the Lord Now is the Time was from Baba Sawan Singh.
Baba Swan Singe.
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, you're the only one I've ever heard pronounced Singe. Everybody else says Singh, I think. You're the only one that's pronounced it the right way. But yeah, it was him instead of Nanak that said that. So just want to correct that. Are you jumping over into Jainism now?
Oh, we can. I was just looking here to
Oh,
see, because this is Hazur Maharaj Sawan Singe, and this is actually something that, has a lot of cool stuff in it. I was looking for one of his mystical quotes that I would, share. But there's so many in here that are so good for many people that I'm having trouble finding the one from him in particular, other than that one. But, one of the things he also says in terms of his basic stuff, he says, all dishonest earnings are the blood of the innocent. Honest earnings are like sweet milk and make the mind pious. Puts into perspective how important it is that, Buddhism teaches this as well, right way of living, right, ways of making a living, all those kinds of things are parts of the actual spiritual practice. Love never perishes, even if the bones of a lover are ground fine like powder, just as the perfume of sandalwood does not leave it, even if it is completely ground up. Similarly, the basis of love is the soul, and it is indestructible and therefore eternal. Beauty can be destroyed, but not love. But anyway, we can go moving on to the Tirthankara, which is Jainism. Tirthankara is literally a ford maker, a savior and spiritual teacher of the righteous path in Jainism. And so the Tirthankaras are those souls who offer passage across the sea of interminable births and deaths, across samsara. So according to Jainism, a Tirthankara as an individual has conquered the samsara, the cycle of death and rebirth. Samsara is the world of illusion, on their own, and made a path for others to follow. After understanding the true nature of the self or soul, the Tirthankara attains what they call Kevala Jnana, which is omniscience. And the first Tirthankara founded Jainism. Tirthankara provides a bridge for others to follow the new teacher from samsara to Mahavira Swami, which is liberation in Jainism. So that takes us to what? One of the most famous of the Tirthankaras, Mahavira. He was the 24th Jain Tirthankara, one of the principal figures of Jainism. And he's the most well-known. And so one of the things he would say was, attachment and aversion are the root cause of karma. And karma originates from infatuation. Karma is the root cause of birth and death, and these are said to be the source of misery. None can escape the effect of their own past karma. Anger begets more anger, and forgiveness and love lead to more forgiveness and love. So again, it's all of this, are you moving towards life? Are you moving towards death? What are you energizing? The most important principle of environment is that you are not the only element. I'm going to leave that one standing alone. Kill not, cause no pain, nonviolence is the greatest religion. And that is the foundational point of Jainism, because, they are not only vegetarian, vegan, but they are very, very stringent in their care for all other forms of life.
And to great extremes, some of them.
Yeah, some of it is extreme.
Make sure you don't step on a little ant or.
Well, and there are some extreme things, definitely, that I've heard about, and
do no harm.
Yes, but that is the reasoning behind it.
And they also have like cosmic time cycles that are ascending and descending, kind of like the Kali Yuga in a way. So it's like there's times when our consciousness is higher, there's times when it's lower.
Okay.
That was fascinating.
That is very interesting. Thank you, Brian. So now we're entering into Judaism. And we start with who? What?
Moses.
Moses. And yes, we started with Moses, and Moses. I'm going to read to you from the Torah, Deuteronomy 32, 50 to 52, the words of God to Moses. And what's important to think of when you listen to these words is just how much God expects of us when we are called. Because think about everything that Moses had done for the Israelite people and that God had asked him to do. And this was because he had not done so perfectly. And this is important because it tells us we are much is expected of us. You shall die on the mountain that you are about to ascend, and shall be gathered to your kin as your brother Aaron died on Mount Hor, and was gathered to his kin. For you both broke faith with me among the Israelite people at the waters of Meribah Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin, by failing to uphold my sanctity among the Israelite people. You may view the land from a distance, but you shall not enter it, the land that I am giving to the Israelite people. I do think people sometimes do not realize the requirement placed on souls who are called. But this definitely tells us this and shares with us that requirement. And it allows us to have a better understanding ourselves if we are discerning a call, what will be asked of us, and that's things are intense.
When you talk about the righteous man,
Falls, yes, 7 times a day.
7 times a day, and so being called, there's a calling for all of us that we fall, we get back up.
We get back up. We have to do it over and over and over again. And
this is one of those chapters too, where we're going to be getting into Abraham, Enoch, Job, Spinoza. So there's quite a few people, and if you want to just start jamming through this
sure.
with your energy and just have a nice flow to it, because I know that you'll bring a nice flow to this chapter.
Okay.
I'm going to sit back and just drink it in.
Well, I'll go with, this is from Deuteronomy 18, which is also speaking of Moses. This is God speaking about what he was going to do with Moses. I will put my words in his mouth, and he will speak to them whatever I command him. And it shall be, any man who does not hearken to my words, which he speaks in my name, I myself will require a reckoning from him. And there's something that I wanted to bring up here. Just, it's kind of a interesting little thing to throw in. It's from the writings and visions of the Venerable Anne Catherine Emmerich. I think people might find this interesting because, it was these very same writings which were utilized for the movie The Passion of the Christ. It was based on the dolorous passion of our Lord Jesus Christ by the Venerable Anne Catherine Emmerich. That book was taken out of this 4-volume series. This quote comes from the same text, from the same mystic. And this is about Moses, and it's about redemption and salvation and all of this. On the same night that Moses took possession of the holy thing, a golden casket shaped like a coffin was prepared, in which at their departure the Israelites took it with them. In the center of this coffin-like chest was placed a little golden casket, wherein was contained the holy thing. Only afterward on Mount Sinai was made the chest inlaid with gold inside and outside, and in it the golden mummiform coffin with the holy thing was placed. And she's speaking about the Ark of the Covenant. But this is how the Venerable Anne Catherine Emmerich described it. And this is also, these are the words of Moses from the 5 books of Moses. This is from an earlier text. I have seen God face to face, and my life has been saved. And of course, the most important thing that Moses brought to humankind was the 10 Commandments from the Mount Sinai. And, in short, most people are pretty familiar with them. But in short, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make idols. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Honor your father and your mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet. So Moses's great unction, great calling to the world was to bring the law and the prophets to the Israelite people, and of course to free them from captivity from Egypt and to establish Israel, which he all accomplished. But it was difficult, it was hard, it was tough. But the next one in Judaism, we kind of go backwards a bit. We go back to Abraham. And with Abraham, it's an interesting one because Abraham was so far back, it's hard to find actual words attributed to him. But we do have some. He said, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdsmen and thy herdsmen, for we be brethren. Another thing that Abraham was famous and notable for, and quite auspicious for, was the fact that he is the one who is known for bargaining for the lives of the people who were left behind in Sodom and Gomorrah. And so this comes from some of that, where he was able to convince God to release Lot and his brethren, to save the righteous few. And it says, "Wilt thou indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there are 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou indeed sweep away and not forgive the place for the 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, that so the righteous should be as the wicked that be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do justly? Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, who am but dust and ashes. Peradventure there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found there." And this is kind of a summarization of the conversation in prayer back and forth between Abraham and God, going from 50 all the way down to 10, where God relents. God relents to Abraham and says, I will not smite the city for 10 just souls. And then he sends the angels to liberate Lot and his family from Sodom and Gomorrah before the natural disasters that struck. But what made Abraham so unique as one of our masters was this, that he negotiated with God in this way, but also that he was truly the first from the land of Canaan, came out of a land of, paganism, and a land where multiple gods, multiple idols. It was, he was the first, to go, and literally the God of Abraham, the father of all the monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, is Abraham. And so there is his significance to all of us, because literally, I believe they've done DNA and we're all related to him. So he's like everyone's great grandpa. So he's pretty auspicious. And the next one is Enoch, one of my personal favorites, because, Enoch was a great mystic and was shown the valleys of good and evil and the realms in between. And, he walked with God as they spoke of him in the Bible, but there were the books that were kept out of the canon of the Old Testament, which were the secret books of Enoch and the book of Enoch. And, there's several secret books of Enoch, but in those books, we get one of our first cosmologies of heaven, hell, and purgatory ever from Enoch. And Enoch was the soul who, after he translated from the world, became Metatron, the great archangel Metatron. And so here are some words attributed to Enoch. He showed me all the hidden things of the extremities of heaven, all the receptacles of the stars, and the splendors of all, from whence they went forth before the face of the Holy.